Yo, what's going on, everybody? It's your boy Dominic Peterson, aka Duck Zone 503, talking all things Oregon football here. And I got a quick message for you, man. I know you guys see me rocking the turnover chain all the time to the games. I've had it in my broadcast, and everybody always asks me, man. It's one of my famous piece of gear that I always take to the game. Everybody asks me, where do you get that? Where do you get that? Because the Dutch store got a lot of cool stuff, but they don't got stuff like my boys at Collegiate Art Design. CollegiateArtDesign.com, man. They got the turnover chains. They just hooked me up with this awesome metal decor, man. So if you want stuff like this to hang up on your wall, you want to take some turnover chains, they got a whole bunch more stuff too. They got metal decor, LED signs, refrigerator magnets, O-chains, Portland, Oregon signs. And if you're not even a fan of the Oregon Ducks and you're a visiting team, visiting my channel for the first time, seeing this ad, man, thinking that's pretty cool, well, don't worry. They got you covered. They got customizable chains for your favorite team. So go ahead and hit that up. Use discount code DuckZone503 for 10% off. Again, DuckZone503 for 10% off your order. Metal art, decor, O signs, LED signs, whatever you guys like, man. Go ahead to collegiateartdesign.com. Yo, what's going on, everybody? It's your boy Dominic Peterson, aka Duck Zone 503, talking all things Oregon football. If you're not following, if you're not subscribed already, go and smash those buttons below to join the Duck Zone family, one of the fastest growing Oregon pages on YouTube. All right, guys, so we're here to preview the big matchup. Number 15 Oregon going on the road to play the Washington State Cougars in Pullman. 1 p.m. kickoff. Oregon opens up as a 6.5-point favorite. Okay, so impressive showing in the last two games for Oregon. Going into dangerous territory, Washington State's 3-0. They had a big win on the road against Wisconsin, number 19 Wisconsin. So these guys are no joke. I'm surprised they're not in the top 25, actually. Washington State just came off a big home win against Colorado State, held them to only 7 points. They won 38-7 there. Oregon also had a big-time victory, big-time momentum victory, big-time confidence builder for this young team against number 12 BYU, okay? This is the team in BYU who's going to win about 9 to 10, 11, maybe 11 games this season. And they look really good, but Oregon just looked that much better, and I was actually very impressed the way Oregon came out. It was 38-7 heading into the fourth. Final score 41-20 in that one. Oregon beats BYU. Oregon went from number 25, jumped up to number 15 in this new week's AP poll. Washington State had some votes. They're about probably, I would say, like number 30, 35, within that range of the top 25. They're getting close. They did have a very impressive victory over number 19 Wisconsin on the road. They went out there. They were a big underdog and got it done. They had a nice front, nice speedy front up front to disrupt some things for Wisconsin's offense and got a close 17-14 victory out there in Wisconsin. So the all-time series for Washington State versus Oregon. Oregon leads this series 52 wins. They lost to Washington State 42 times. And there has been 7 ties in this series, which is pretty impressive. Since the turn of the century, since about the year 2000, Oregon is 9-4 playing in Pullman. One of those games that I'm talking about in the 9-4, though, was in 2012. They played in Seattle, so it wasn't exactly in Pullman, but Oregon has a pretty impressive victory out there, even though the struggles as of the recent years in Pullman, in our memory, like 2018, come into mind. You know, Oregon 9-4, since that kind of impressed me when I seen that stat. The last matchup against Washington State was last year. Oregon won 38-24 pretty handily. Nice 2-touchdown win there. The last matchup in Pullman was in 2020, and Oregon won 43-29 pretty soundly. But there was no fans in the stands. So that 2020 year, the COVID year, when they only played 6 games, I think, and they played Washington State that year, but there was no fans in the stands, which makes a huge difference. And this game scares me. I even said it in my preview. You know, this game reminds me of the 2018 matchup with Washington State, okay? Washington's undefeated, Oregon coming into Pullman. Washington State fans always go insane. It's like the Super Bowl game when the Ducks come into town. They always want to beat the Ducks real bad. Mario Cristobal's first year was in 2018 when that big blowout game with Washington State happened. It was 27-0 in the first half in that game. Real ugly game in 2018. And Oregon was looking good. They just came off the win off Washington where they stormed the field. And, you know, they came in. And I don't know if they really expected what Washington State was. And this is Dan Lanning's first year as well, okay, in 2022. And they head into Washington off a big-time win off a ranked opponent, right? Washington State won that game 34-20, but like I said, in the first half, it was 27-0. The Ducks did some things in the second half to kind of make it a game, but at the end of the day, they got it done. Washington State had quarterback Gardner Minshew, and that Washington State team finished actually 11-2 in 2018. So that was a very good team with the NFL quarterback at hand. I don't know if you actually have that in this year's Washington State team, but they do have a good, respectable quarterback, and we'll get into that. Another thing to note is that a lot of those guys in 2018 that experienced that loss are gone. I mean, there's a couple O linemen like Forsyth and stuff like that got interviewed that they kind of talked about being on the sidelines and witnessing that. I think Forsyth actually said that is the loudest stadium he's ever been in, and he's played in Ohio State and Atlanta recently, Autzen all the time, and Washington State can get rowdy. I mean, their seats, they only have 32,952 seats, but man, they can pack that place and they'll go crazy, especially when the Ducks come to town. And Washington State's good this year. Okay, make no doubt about it. They might not have that number by their name, but give them some respect, man. Their defense is something to talk about here. And another thing to note, when you're out there in Pullman, Washington, okay, I know a lot of people probably haven't been out there, but dude, there's like nothing out there. So it's kind of like Nebraska. If you're a Nebraska fan, it's like that's the only thing to go do, man. All right, so let's get into it. Preview against Washington State. Washington State comes in 3-0, 3-0, so undefeated. They beat Idaho 24-17, which they kind of struggled in that game. I was actually pretty impressed with how Idaho, was doing with Washington State's offense, how defensively they were handling them. But Washington State gets the close win there. Then this is the game I was talking about. At number 19, Wisconsin at the time, they get the close 3-point win, 17-14. They pull it out. Their speed on defense really disrupted a lot of things for Wisconsin offense. A lot of people expected those big boys at Wisconsin to just kind of push over Wisconsin easily. Nope, didn't happen. Their speed really caught Wisconsin off guard. And then you come back home. You have every right to have a trap game right here, Colorado State, right? You just come off a big-time victory. You're looking ahead against next week against Oregon. This is an easy time to slip up. No, this team remained focused, and they beat them 38-7. No, it's Colorado State. I'll give them that. But, man, it's pretty impressive so far. Now, on offense, they're led by quarterback Cam Ward. He's a transfer from Incarnate Ward, which is pretty funny, right? In 2021, he threw for 4,648 yards, 47 touchdowns, and 10 interceptions. Now, I get it. He's way down in competition when you're playing in that league, but that is very impressive. Probably a big reason why they picked him up at Washington State. So this season so far, Ward has thrown for 727 yards, 8 interceptions, and 3 touchdowns, 7.1 yards per pass. That's pretty impressive, okay? Ducks going to have to really cover up the pass game for this one. Offensively, Cougars like to use the air raid, but they have a little more balanced attack with the air raid. They call it the Cougar raid. They got a quarterback who can certainly sling it, and playmakers at the skill position for sure that can move the ball. And Oregon secondary, they got Christian Gonzalez at that DB1. But that DB2 position is still a little bit questionable, okay? That other corner position, that's what I'm talking about, still a little bit questionable. We're still trying to find it between Triquez, Manning, and the freshman Jaleel Florence might have a chance at that. So still trying to figure it out early. They got those guys rotating. We're going to have one of those guys step up. Okay, so this year, though, instead of the offense, usually we talk about the offense with Washington State being the prominent thing on their team. You got to watch out for their defense so far this year, okay? Washington State is holding opponents to 10.5 points per game. That's number 11 in all of college football. So they're right there around the top 10, hovering right around the top 10 in points per game. They're top 10 in opponent red zone scoring. Opponents are only scoring 60% of the time. That's number 10 in all of college football, okay? Top 10 in the red zone scoring so far. They're very, very fast and athletic up front. And this could very well be the fastest defense Oregon has faced since week 1 when they played Georgia. They played They played Eastern Washington, who was a step down in competition. Oregon just looked way faster, stronger in all types of the game. Played BYU, who is certainly very physical, but they just didn't have the speed to match up with Oregon's playmakers. Washington State created a lot of problems up front with Wisconsin when they went against them in that game of week 2. Like I said, like I kind of expect Oregon to do, I kind of expect them to run the ball very well. That's probably what Wisconsin was thinking. But those guys made plays. Washington State also forced 3 turnovers in that game, so their defense can very well get after it. And they've had statistically very good numbers in their first 3 games. So let's get into it. Now we kind of get to know about Washington State's offense and defense a little bit. Here's my 3 keys to the game against Washington State. So number 1, I have rushed the ball for over 200 plus yards, okay? Oregon looked really, really good rushing against a really good BYU front, okay? Bo Nix, I think his play really gets elevated. He gets really comfortable when they have a good running game going. He doesn't feel like he has to, stress out and make the play, force balls. If he's in 3rd and 2, 3rd and 5 situations, he tends to calm down, stay relaxed, read the defense real well, and make the play. And I also expect Oregon's depth. They have a lot of running backs who they can rotate, a lot of O-linemen who they can rotate over the game and over the time to really take over this game. Key number 2, force 2+ turnovers, okay? We're going to need a turnover on the road. It's always a big deal to get those turnovers. Martin Stadium's going to be rocking for this game. It's going to be electric in there. Turnovers are always the best crowd silencers, okay? Silence that crowd, get the turnovers, and you got to capitalize on those turnovers as well. That goes into it. Cam Ward, as I watched the tape and watched some of their games, he does have the tendency to put the ball in harm's way at times, and I think the Ducks could force him into a couple interceptions, okay? Key number 3, stop Washington State on 3rd down, okay? The numbers might be a little skewed. It's really early, and this stat might mean nothing. But the Oregon Ducks rank number 131st in all of college football on defensive 3rd down conversions. They're allowing their opponents 68% of the time to get the first down on 3rd down. This is not good at all. It's not going to get it done. We need to make that stat better, pad it up. Let's make Washington State get off the field on 3rd down. Last week, they were pretty good. They're about 8 of 15 against BYU on 3rd down. It's not bad, but it's not great. So definitely want to see them get off the field when 3rd down situations. All right, so let's get to my prediction of this game, okay? This game really, really scares the hell out of me because it's in Pullman, okay? It's games in Pullman. It's like games in Arizona, man. When Oregon travels to these places, it's just weird things tend to happen sometimes, okay? I've been saying since the preseason that this could be an upset game for Oregon. I actually early in the season predicted it. We'll see if I stick with it. We'll see if I don't. Stay tuned. Washington State is coming in undefeated, okay? They're going to have a lot of confidence, especially after that big upset win on the road. They're going to believe that they can beat the Ducks. That's where it begins right there. You got to have the confidence coming in. But so is Oregon, all right? After dropping a big week one game, they come back and drop a 70-pointer on Eastern Washington and then come back and beat a top 15 team in BYU. They were number 12 at the time. 41-20, very impressive wins, okay? Really great play from Bo Nix. He's had 10 total touchdowns, passing and rushings in the last 2 games, and has been near perfect. Getting the game in September and a 1 p.m. kickoff in Pullman makes me feel a lot better. If this was a November wintry night, it would be kind of a different story for me. So I'm going to go ahead and give my final prediction after saying all that. I got Oregon 42, Washington 24. Okay, I think Oregon is really improving drastically every week as we see them play. Performance evaluation from week 1 to 3 is day and night for Oregon on both sides of the ball. They're really tackling well. Guys are in position on defense. Okay, on offense, I've been saying it since week 1. They only scored 3 points, okay? But if you look at the way they really moved the ball against Georgia, they were moving it. And then they come back, score 70. When is the last time Oregon scored 70? It's been a while. They score 70, okay, on Eastern Washington. Dominate a pretty good FCS team. And then BYU, I had my doubts, you know that. They come out and dominate that team. Now we're on the road, and I think the speed that Washington State possesses up front can disrupt things for Oregon early, okay? Definitely early on, those guys are going to make some plays. But I just think the pure size for Oregon and the pure team speed will just, take over against Washington State over 4 quarters, okay? There's 4 quarters in football. Not 1, not 2, not 3, but there's 4. And I think Oregon has the depth and the athletes to really just kind of grind this game out and win in 4 quarters, okay? Oregon has a drastic amount of depth and athleticism on the roster over Washington State. Oregon is 7th nationally on talent roster composite, okay? So they're top 10 with as much talent as they have. That's why I really expected them to compete in week 1. But, there's a lot of things that go into that. New coach in Atlanta, it's a tough place to play, and those guys look very impressive. Georgia's on another planet. The Oregon offensive line also has been one of the best in the country so far, okay? They've given up no sacks, and then 200 yards. They just rushed all over and pushed around a good BYU front 7, okay? And they played good fronts already. They played Georgia, one of the best in the country, and then they played BYU, a really, really good front with a lot of respect. Washington State, they beat Wisconsin, but let me remind you, okay, it was a close 3-point victory. It wasn't like they just dominated and walked all over them, okay? And Wisconsin, I'm not trying to make excuses here. Washington State, all respect, you guys did win, but Wisconsin beat themselves a lot. I mean, 3 turnovers, a lot of penalties on Wisconsin, if you really look at the stat sheet and watch that game. It was bad, okay? So I like what Washington State did, but, Washington, they haven't seen an offense like Oregon's yet. I mean, the last 2 weeks, Oregon's averaging over 50, 60 points. They got to be. I don't know the exact number, but, man, that's between 41 to 70. What is that, right? Man, that's what they're averaging. And I just don't think they'll be able to keep up with Oregon's depth. They can rotate running backs in there. They can rotate offensive line. And, when Washington State starts getting tired up front, how much of that speed that we talk about is going to be effective? I don't know how effective it's really going to be. Washington State offense also doesn't look very efficient to me, okay, at moving the ball. They ranked number 87th in all of college football with 346.5 yards per game. Their third down conversion rate is not that great. 31%. They're only getting 31% of their third downs converted. That's 90th in all of college football, and the Cougars only scoring 27.5 points. That's 65th in college football. Now you can look at the Oregon stats, and they're skewed because of that little Georgia game. Played one of the best teams in college football, so the Oregon stats don't look very impressive at all. And it's very early on these stats, so let me remind you, the stats don't mean a lot, but they do mean something, and you got to look at them and bring them up when, the offense for Washington State just hasn't been that impressive. They scored 38 last week. That's pretty good, but, against Idaho, you only scored 24. Wisconsin, you scored 17, you got the win. Wisconsin had a lot of things to do with that on their own self. They played an A-plus game. I don't know if that score would be the same. Overall, I really think that the depth, the athleticism, like I said, all the running backs Oregon can bring in, I expect them to really run the ball well. I expect Cam Ward to maybe have a turnover or 2, and might be close in the first half. I think it will be a battle. I think Pullman will be rocking. I think their speed up front will create some things, but when it gets in that 3rd and 4th quarters and guys start getting tired and Oregon puts in those new O-linemen and those new running backs and those fresh legs, I think that's when you'll see Oregon start getting 5, 6, 7 touchdown. 5, 6, 7 yards to touchdown. And I expect Oregon 42, Washington State 24 in this game. All right, so that's my preview and prediction. If you guys like videos like these, I also have recruiting videos, a whole bunch of other content on this channel about Oregon. I create shorts as well, and the little shorts reel machines, that you can watch and hit the likes and all that, man. It's awesome. So go ahead and subscribe to Duck Zone 503, and man, we're fastest growing channel on YouTube. As always, go Ducks.